Hey everybody, it's me, Mary Z, and I'm back on YouTube bringing you more tutorials, more vocal-oriented content. Today we're going to actually answer a question that kind of surprised me, and it came from one of my vocal students. Is false chord screaming worse for you than other types of harsh vocals? Is it actually bad for you? The false chord scream, just to review, sounds something like this. Yeah! You! Ah! Who's gonna save me from this boy? Before we begin, I just wanted to say thanks everybody for sticking with me. This year so far, I made it to 100,000 subscribers. I got my Silver Play Award in the mail. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Thanks everyone. And I also wanted to let you know that this coming Sunday, I'm going to get back to streaming. I've upgraded my entire setup. I'm going to stream pretty much the whole day. I'm going to do a really long session this Sunday coming up October 3rd. 2021, in case you're watching this way in the future. We are going to do a lot of really cool things. I'm going to do some warming up with you guys. I'm going to be recording and working on some vocals for some collabs and some really cool things I have going on, so you can join me and see how that process works. I'm finally going to be taking a look at some gear. You guys all know my favorite microphone company, the ones that you always see me using in the videos, like this one here, are Rode microphones, and I'm so excited because they actually made an interface, which is really cool. And they sent it to me in a package with one of my favorite microphones that they make, the NT1. So we're going to try out this interface a little bit and unbox this on my live stream on Sunday as well. Here's the best part is I would like to react to your vocals. So attend the streams and you'll find out the details of how to get me to react to your vocals and give you a critique on what's going on with your clean or harsh vocals, whatever you want me to take a look at. See you guys Sunday right here on YouTube for the stream. Let's answer the question of the day, which is false chord screaming really bad for you? I was really surprised to find out from one of my vocal students that this is actually kind of going around the rumor mill. Let's go back and define what I mean by false chord screaming. And the way that I define false chord screaming is phonations with our vocal folds open, harsh vocals, screams that blow around or flap around our false chords or vestibular folds, as well as several of our other tissues throughout the soft palate and sinuses. This also sometimes gets called a growl or a death growl. It's a noise with my vocal folds apart using the other tissues to create the sound. It does have pitches, harmonic pitches, but it doesn't have like a voiced tone like, hey, like my voice with distortion. And there is a little bit of a myth perpetuating that this is not as good for you as other types of harsh vocals. The other two types I would call voice with distortion, which is sort of like a, hey, anything you can hear a voiced pitch in with the distortion. And the third type that I classify of harsh vocals is the fry scream, which is a phonation where you're squeezing, you're compressing your folds together like this and blowing air between them, in addition to using some of the other tissues in the soft palate, the sinuses, to create the rest of the distortion. So there's sort of a myth going around that frying especially could be somehow safer than false chord. I've taught and done all of these sounds for many years, and I'm going to say that from my perspective as a teacher, also looking at some of the limited research we have available on these things, that all of these sounds pose an inherent risk if you don't do them correctly. When done correctly, none of these sounds should make you hoarse because they're not doing mechanically the thing that slams the chords together. And false chord, in my opinion, as an instructor and as a performer, is the one with the vocal folds open. So in my opinion, I feel as though it's the least dangerous, as long as folks are keeping their voice tone out of the sound and actually doing a true false chord scream. There's nothing in the research that's available that indicates that flapping the false chords does anything negative to the true folds. So one of the studies that I love citing for this type of information, and I've mentioned it before on this channel, is the study done by Dr. Krzysztof Izdebski of the Pacific Voice and Speech Foundation. And he took a really close, in-depth look at the false chords. And what he discovered is also what other research has noted, that when done correctly, it doesn't appear to affect our true folds, our true vocal folds, our true chords. Folds and chords, by the way, folks, can be used interchangeably. Our true vocal cords are not really affected by proper false chord screaming. The reason why things can be dangerous is doing a sound incorrectly. When you're not doing it correctly, the movements aren't correct, and so you might do a movement through one of the sounds that is incorrect, that slams your chords together, that puts it at risk, that causes damage. But actually, if I had to say that any of the sounds were riskier than any other, based on my own experience as a vocal instructor and coaching hundreds of people witnessing their problems with and without fry and false chord, and I would say that fry is actually the one that causes people more problems. Fry is a compressed vocal cord sound, and in order to perform a very loud fry scream, you actually need an incredible amount of what we call vocal compression strength, pressing the folds together and the ability to hold them as you increase the volume to a full fry scream level of volume. And this ends up being problematic and potentially dangerous because when we don't have enough compression strength, which most people actually don't when they first start frying because we don't make this sound, it's beyond the strength required for speaking or singing, even distorted singing. And because most folks don't have enough compression strength to hold that initial fry position, we can put ourselves at risk of some sort of muscle tension issues, tension dysphonia, and other problems relating to muscle tension. Also, the compression may release and the voice will tend to go towards a less compressed sound, which is voice with distortion. And this could possibly result in shouting when you want to do frying. Even though we can do voice with distortion correctly, again, you've got to know how to do it. It can't be sort of an accident when you mean to fry. So I actually feel like fry, if I had to say one was riskier than the others, it would actually, to me, be the fry scream. In false chord screaming, when it's done correctly, it's very loose in the musculature. It's all the ligaments, everything's just open and the folds are open. They're not touching, they're not slamming, they're not hitting anything, and our muscles are not compressing. It's even less compressed than actually singing. So I would say that false chord, when done correctly, is reasonably safe. And I've actually been false chording the longest out of any of the sounds that I've done, over 15 years now, and I've had my vocal folds looked at many times. I don't have problems at all with them. So I would say that as long as you're doing the sound actually correct, we shouldn't experience a lot of risk or danger with it. But if you do it wrong, it is risky and dangerous because you're not doing the correct positions. You're not creating the correct phonations with the muscles in here. So that's really the truth of everything. All screams are dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So I think the way that I approach it in teaching is relatively safe. We try to get it from a growl or a sigh rather than yelling using your voice. Most of the things that actually damage people's true vocal cords are not distorted at all. In fact, they happen more often in speaking tones rather than singing tones. I always use the music conference NAMM as a perfect example. I see many of you at NAMM every single year, and oftentimes you're asking me questions because by day 2, you find that your speaking voice is incredibly hoarse. And certainly most of the folks that are going hoarse in these loud music conference or concert settings where they're just speaking are not screaming or using any sort of distortion. They're simply slamming their true folds very loudly together in an effort to project over the noise, and this is what's causing the swelling and the problem. In fact, if most folks would use a little distortion when they're trying to speak loud by doing something like, "Hey, how you doing?" instead of, "Hey," with your clean voice, you would actually probably go hoarse less. You're creating more of the volume and the noise with your other tissues, but that is certainly an odd way to speak. So just a reminder that most of the sounds that are going to hurt our actual true chords. They're going to have some kind of voice in it, and they're probably not going to be very distorted, to be honest. If you guys want to know more about any of these categories or what I mean, I have a lot of tutorials right here on the channel. If you're interested in booking lessons with me on Zoom and exploring how to do some of these sounds safely and correctly, feel free to email me at voicehacks@gmail.com. Otherwise, I put the link to my online booking portal, which is self-service, by the way. That'll save you some emails and some questions if you're curious. It's right below in the description here. Thank you all so much. I hope to see some of you at my live stream on Sunday, and look for more tutorials and vocal content coming soon.